Hi everyone, welcome back to another NextJS 14 app router tutorial. So today I'm going to cover something very important, and it is passing data to pages or components. So I had a question from one of my members on my channel here, and he asked about how to maintain passing data to like a dashboard page and how to maintain that data, or I guess so that it doesn't load multiple times. So I'm going to cover that. But what I want to do right now is to show you how I set up my page here. I have a regular Next.js app installed right over here. It's just very basic, and all I did was set up a header. This is a header component, and then I have a footer component, and this is the page. So this is all using the layout, and I'm going to show you the code right now, but just take a look at what I set up here, right? So I have a little bell icon right here that I'm going to modify. I'm going to pass some data to it, kind of like a little notification thing. You can also think of it as if you were to do a shopping cart, you can have a little notification pop up once you add things to cart. And then I just have my little avatar menu right here that you see on a lot of websites where you click on it, you can see my accounts, log out. But let me step you through my coding right here. So this is a regular Next.js 14 app installed right here. Very basic. I added a components folder right here, and then I added a header. And this is just Tailwind CSS, very simple. This is just using useState so that I can do the mobile menu. Show you right here. It's just a simple useState for the mobile menu when it collapses like that, and you click it, reviews it just like that. Very simple. And all this is just Tailwind CSS. So this is the header. Very simple header right here. And the header contains, this little notification and my avatar menu right here. So let's go to the footer. I'm going to show you that real quick. Same thing. This uses the next link right here, and it just does Tailwind CSS. And very basic. See that? Just nothing special in this footer right here. That's all the footer info right there. And then we have this page right here. So let me show you that. If we go to the layout, and I included the header, I included the footer, and that's all I did. That's all I modified this, nothing else modified. And then let's go to the page, and this is the home page right here. Very simple. So that's what we're going to start with right now, and I'm going to step through on how to understand passing data to components. I'm going to create a form in here, and I'm going to pass the data to the form, and then I'll get to passing data to the headers and stuff afterwards. So let's get into this. So before I start, I want to give a shout out to my two new Patreon members, Timothy and Ashish. Thank you for being my first two Patreon subscribers, and I really appreciate it. It really gives me motivation to create more of these tutorials, and I'm reading all the positive comments that you love my tutorials. And right after this, I'm actually going to go and get a coffee with that Patreon amount, so thank you guys for that. So now let's go ahead and start this project right here. And what I want to show you is that I'm going to create a form right into this body right here. Right here, I copy and pasted a form that I created, and it's a very simple form with one input field right here with a message and then a submit button. And then we have this action where I'm going to send this message off. So let's create this send message right now. I'm going to show you in a minute here how this is going to work. Const send message. And of course, it gives us a form data when we're sending off a form. And with this form data, we can do form data.get the message input field right here, right? I want to get that message when we submit it. And what am I going to do with this? I'm going to put this message right down into the body here. So to do that, I have to use state. So import useState from React right there. And let's set up my state. Const message set message equals useState. And initially it will be an empty message like that. And so let's set this, set MSG right to that message. We're setting the state to this. So now we can use this in a body of our form right here of the page. So I can really just call it like this. And so I'm creating this first right now because I want to show you that I can pass this to a component. All right, so let me just show you how it works right now, and then I'll show you the component setup. npm run dev, reload this page. I forgot to use client. When we're doing useState, we have to make this a use client page. So use client, save that. Okay, so here we go. Here is the page with a little message form. and submit button. So let me show you if I say hello like that, submit it. See, it just displays hello, right? But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create a component for this message and then pass it to that. So a component or pages, you can make pages or components, and you can make like a sidebar. That's a component. The header here is a component, and then I can pass this parameter to it. So let me do that. I'm going to go to my components folder right here and create a file called messagebox.js. Export default function message box, return, and this is where I'm going to pass the parameter to this component. So let me import this message box here. So let's go back to page here. I'm going to import the message box, import message box right there. It took it from the components message box, and then let's put the message box down here, message box. So I'm going to remove this set stage message right here, and I'm going to pass it to this message box component. So to do that, I'm going to give it a variable of message equals bracket, and then now this name right here, MSG, that is the variable that we are using our use state. I'm passing that value to this new value that I'm creating called message. So now back in message box, I have to take in that value or parameter message like that, because that is the name that I've given it right here. So it takes in the message, and now we can display that message just like that. Let me wrap this around a p tag and give it some tailwind right here, give it a little bit of spacing right there, save that. Back to this page here, save that. So now when we submit it, it's submitting this form data message that we're setting as the use state, and it's going to set it as this MSG value. The value will go here, and we're passing this as a parameter to our component, and I'm renaming it right here, message. If I can call this MSG like that too, I just have to rename it back here, MSG, but I'm just calling it message so that you can distinguish the different names when I pass it through here, and then now I'm reusing this message here. So let's see how that works. It should just do the same thing here. You won't even notice a thing, this is a test. Submit, see, this is a test. So that passed it as a parameter to the component. You can make this also a object if you want. Let's say if I had a const data equals an object in here, and the object had a message, hello, and then you can have another value in here, and you can pass this whole object in here and just do whatever you want with it. So yeah, that's how it works. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is a little bit more advanced. I'm going to pass data to this header, and you notice in my header right here, this avatar image, it's static right now. It's just HTML code. And this bell icon, I'm going to have a number pop up as a notification. So to do that, I'm going to have this whole page load, and it's going to fetch from an API. It's going to fetch that data and pass it to the header, and then display all the info here. So let's open up this layout right here, and you'll notice the layout has the header right here, and I want to pass data to this header. So let me set up my API call right here, export const get user data. I'm going to call it this, async. So I'm going to do a response equals fetch, or it's going to be an await fetch. And what I'm going to fetch is this address, http or localhost 3000 API. I'm going to create an API, and I'm going to take in get user. I have to call that address for it to get the data. And then I'm going to return that data, response.json. And so when it returns this get data, let's get that right here, const user data equals await get user data. And since I'm doing an await, I have to make this an async, just like that. And now we're going to pass this user data to the header, data equals user data. So I've already created my API call right here. I'm going to show you how it looks like. Right inside my app folder here, I have a folder called API, and then I have this folder called slug. And then inside slug has a route.js. So if you watched my previous tutorial, I went over how to create APIs. It's a very simple get API right here. See get, and it gets this parameter, and parameter is this right here, the slug. And so you see how I set up the slug, it gets the parameter.slug. I'm telling this to only submit this data if it has a get user in the URL. So right here, that's why I'm calling it like this right here. See that? Only if the URL has this API/get user. And then it's going to return this object for me where I have my avatar right here. This is my image. And then I'm going to have this notify with a number in it. I'm returning all that. So the data goes back right here. It gets user data and it goes into our header through a variable called data. So let me show you the header right now. The header right here, you see there's nothing in here right now. So let's get that data. Because we just passed through the data and now we can use that data. So right here, I'm going to have my data.notify. That's for the little number. But you know what? I'm going to make this a little bit nicer with some Tailwind CSS. And there we go. Notify right there. And then I want to put in my avatar. You'll notice right here, see how I coded in my avatar link? So I'm going to remove this whole thing and put in my data.avatar right there. So let's save that. So yeah, now let's go and take a look at how it's going to load. See, it reloaded for me already. So if I refresh, it passed the data to our header here. And when the page loads, it's grabbing it. It's fetching that data from the API, and then it just passes to the header. So right here, if I change this to 1, I'll do a console.log get user, just so that you see when it loads this, this routing. Back here, and I'll refresh the page, and there you go. See how I changed it to 1? And I'll show you right here in the console, it says get user. So there you go with another method in fetching data on a page, passing it to a header or any component that you want and displaying it there. So yeah, this was a question that someone had on my channel here, and I believe they were asking how do they fetch data, pass it to a component like a sidebar or a header. And I don't think they wanted this to constantly load. So like if I were to constantly refresh this, they didn't want it to keep on fetching data. And I'll show you how to do that right now. If I go to the header, and let me scroll down right here to where our link is. So I have only this home link right now. Copy that. I'm gonna make another link here called an about page. About like that. And I'll call this about. And this link is using the NextJS link right here. See, next link. So let me create the about page right here. Put in a page. Export default function about. Just a simple about page. I want to just show you something really quick. Give it h1 about. Okay, here is the about page. There's nothing on it. It just says about. If I were to click on this link, it's using the NextJS link, so it's cached. So if I click on that, it doesn't load. It doesn't fetch data again. So even if I go back and forth, you see that? So it won't keep on doing a fetch. And you'll notice down here, it didn't keep, it didn't say get user. You see that? So if you don't want your pages to keep fetching data as you're navigating through, use the NextJS link because it uses caching. And if I were to, refresh this page, then I'll do another get on it. So yeah, that was just something I want to cover right there very simply. Okay, so this next method is called passing data by context. And we're going to use this method called useContext and createContext. And it's a very popular method. And so far we've been passing data by parameters right here. So let me show you right here. I'm going to go to my app folder, create a folder called context. Inside of context, I'm going to create a file called context. And this file we're going to reuse in a lot of our pages to create this context. So what you do is import create context right there, create context from React. And then export const, and I'm making a custom context here. You can call this whatever you want. And we're going to call that create context. Just like that. And initially I'll set it to null. You can set this to an object if you want to, like that, or whatever you want. I'm going to put null. And so just remember this name right here, custom context. I'm calling it this. I'm making my own custom context. You can have many contexts. Just remember that. It's going to be important. I'll keep that open, and now we're going to go to our page here, the home page. So yeah, we've been passing things through parameters. We're going to take that out because now we're going to use context. So let's go right up here and do our import our custom context, the one that we just created, custom context. And then all you do is you go down here, we're going to wrap this context around the message box. So custom context, but you have to also say dot provider. It's kind of confusing right now. You just have to memorize this. And then the value is going to be the message. So we're wrapping this around the message box here. So you'll notice that it looks very similar to pass by parameters, but this has to be called value. And then the value, we're giving it our message right here, the message. So that's the only difference, is passing this to this custom context. And now anything that's wrapped in this custom context, we can use it. We can use it now inside of our message box. Imagine if you have multiple components in here. You just wrap them all, and every one of these components can use this value. So let's go to the message box here, and we're going to pass it to the message box. And since we're not doing parameters anymore, we're removing this. And this is just something you have to remember. Anytime you're using a context, you have to import the use context right here. And then you also have to import that custom context, whatever context that you're using. So yeah, this is like the most tedious part of it. Like, you have to remember where whatever component that you're using a context, import the use context, and then import that custom use context that you're using. And then call it right here. You can say const message equals use context. And then now you're telling this which context to use. And I'm using my custom context here. Custom context. So yeah, it's just something you just have to do many times and you'll get the hang of it. So imagine if I had another custom context, like a different context box, I can tell it to use that context instead. So you see that? Now this variable here will get populated in there. So that's how you carry values over. So let's go to our page here, and it should work the same exact way. I'll just say createContext here, submit, and see it passes it through. So yeah, that's how you use context. And like I said, this is a very popular method, so try to study this a little bit more. There is a little bit more with this custom context where you can do some error checking on it. And what I'll do is I'll provide that code in my Patreon. Other programmers talk about that. They created a whole custom context with like their whole custom use context to do some error checking around it. So it's a good way to do that. I'm just showing you the very basic way on how this works. But what I will have is in my Patreon, the full code for the custom one, if you want to see that. All right, so the last thing I want to show is how to pass parameters through URL here. And I'm going to pass a simple parameter and have it display on this page right here, but I'm going to pass it through a link right here. So I'll create a new link. See here, our header, go down here to our links. I'll copy this link here. I'll make a new one, and I'll call this pass by link, or pass data by link, so that you know. And so in here, we're going to call the home page still, and we're going to do this bracket, but another bracket inside. See, double bracket, so that we can pass an object in here. And now we can pass in a path name right here. We'll give this the path of the home page still. And then now we say query, and inside this query, we can give it as many parameters as we want. I'll give it a name right now, and I'll just say createContext like that. And there you go. That's how the link looks like. And let's go back to our home page right here, the page. And so when I'm passing parameters through the URL link, that is a context. Don't be confused with the custom context. We are taking in a context right here. And so now we can say const params equals context dot search params. So we're searching for that parameter in the URL. Now we can use this parameter, and I'll just display it right below our message box here. And I'll tell it params dot name. If that exists, then say hello. And then I'll just say my params.name, which is createContext. And then if it doesn't exist, show nothing. And let's go back to our page, reload it. Here is the pass data by link. So yeah, let's click on this. And there you go. There's the parameter name equals createContext, and it passed it through hello createContext. See that? So that is how you pass parameters through a URL and accept it on any page. So yeah, that's the last thing I want to show here. Many different ways to pass data to components, URLs, custom context here. Put as many components as you want. Imagine if you have a sidebar, you know, right bars and bottom bars, everything, all these different pages you can pass parameters through. And yeah, that's going to do it for this tutorial. Hope you liked it. I will have all of this full code inside of my Patreon if you want to view it, just like all of my other tutorials. So go ahead and view that if you like and help support this channel. So hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you guys in the next one. Code Kyle.